In today's special episode, I have a guest with me, Juli Baranik, the founder of Seven Figure Builder, marketing and automation consultant, and mom. Hi, Juli. How are you feeling?
Hi, Ella. I'm feeling wonderful. Thank you. How are you?
I'm really great. I'm very excited for this interview. And I would love to start with the very first question I would love to ask you. What do people misunderstand about you most?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say that I tend to be quiet more than anything. So I think that people underestimate my capabilities as I tend to listen more than I speak. And generally, when I'm in a new situation, I'll tend to absorb way more than I will offer, and then come in afterwards and express my thoughts respectfully, of course, and give my inputs. And so I think first impressions, possibly people might generally underestimate me.
If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
That's a tough question. There are so many things that I would love to be remembered for. I think I would like to be most remembered for helping people share their God-given gifts and be able to multiply them to touch lots of lives and be able to improve people's lives overall.
I love that. That is so needed right now, and especially in this space of coaching and consulting. Definitely. What's the biggest compliment you've ever gotten?
I was recently called the Queen of Automation, so I have to say that would be the best compliment that I've gotten recently that comes to mind.
Awesome, that's so fitting.
Thank you very much.
What's your favorite book and why?
My most, we'll say, recent favorite book is The 4-Hour Workweek that I read, I would say a couple years ago, and I reread it most recently as it's something that I've tried to apply throughout my life. And when I read it a few years ago, it seemed very lofty of a goal. And when I reread it, I realized how much of it I've actually applied and been able to accomplish in my life. And there's still some pieces that I want to work on. I certainly haven't hit the 4-hour work week yet. I am mostly remote and do a ton of travel, as I know you do as well, and have incorporated that into my life. And so, yeah, there are a lot of really incredible principles in that book that I've definitely taken to heart.
So if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
That's a loaded question. I would say, don't fall for boys with fast, sexy cars. How about that?
That's a good one.
There are lots of things that, looking back at my 18-year-old self, I wouldn't have thought would have turned out that way, but I'm very happy with how my life is, and even the very, very many twists and turns that it's taken, I wouldn't change it. But yeah, I could say that would be a piece of advice that I would give myself.
And I think this is so timely, especially for like women and young girls. The debate about women and women's rights is so timely now, so that we as coaches and consultants, female coaches and consultants, also kind of have a responsibility when it comes to that, right? How we show up as women in this space, and also how we kind of be the role model also for people out there, for females, and also for our daughters also, right? I think this is a very timely advice, very great advice, because a girl can never be too careful, right, when it comes to that.
Absolutely.
Tell me about the 3 most influential people in your life and how they impacted you.
So I would say the first one would be my husband, who has encouraged me in so many ways and pushed me in so many ways personally to dig deeper into my own, say, emotions, my own thought processes, challenging my thought processes. I remember when we first started dating, and we would talk for hours and hours and hours, and we would challenge each other in our thought processes, which is always quite frankly, uncomfortable because it makes you dig deeper and understand more why you believe what you believe. And that's something that we encourage our kids to not just be carbon copies of us, but to truly understand what you believe and why you believe what you believe. So, yeah, he definitely comes to mind as number one. And my grandparents, my grandfather and my grandmother were, I would say, number two and number three. They taught me tremendous amounts, and it rolled into my parents, of course, as that was, my mother's parents in particular, the ones I'm thinking of. But they gave me a huge appreciation for that generation. In our country, it was like the World War II generation, and yours as well. And my grandfather served in the military. He was a paratrooper. He was shot multiple times, had a Purple Heart award, many, many awards, and just a very brave man. And my grandmother was a tiny little Italian woman who loved to cook and just had, we'll say, the value of family, and instilled that in throughout our entire family. So they were both very influential people, and I was privileged enough to be able to spend a lot of time with them and record a lot of their stories. And I ended up turning it into like an autobiography for them, and thankfully was able to share it with my grandfather before he passed and get it printed so my grandmother could see it. So they both were able to check it out, but it's something that we were able to pass down through the generations in my family, and my kids now have copies of it. And so, yeah.
I really love that. If you could have coffee or tea with any historical figure, who would you choose? And why?
Well, two came to mind. I would say for someone living, I would go with Elon Musk. I find him intriguing. A very brilliant man. And he, as I'm sure you know, has Asperger's, and my son has Asperger's. Mm-hmm. So just from that angle, hearing about like what he overcame, how he overcame it, and just his goals. And as quirky as he is, I have an appreciation for him and his goals in mind. And then for, we'll say, someone that is no longer living, I would probably go with Einstein, just as a brilliant man as well, and just to pick his mind, things he wishes that he would have done differently, that he never got to accomplish, some of his findings that we never knew about, and might ultimately continue to change the world as it has. So those are two that come to mind there.
Very scientific angle, right? Very
logical thinking there.
If you won 10 million tomorrow, what would you spend it on?
I would go off the grid. You would never hear from me again.
Oh no.
No, I'm kidding. So my husband and I often talk about starting a nonprofit for kids who have lost a parent, either in the military or line of service or something like that. So that's something that, we would like to do. And so I would definitely take some money and put that aside and, use it to help others. I would also pay off my parents' mortgage, help them with their retirement, travel Europe with my daughter. She has a love affair with Europe, so I plan to take her there someday. Take a nest egg, for my two sons, and get them more comfortable than they would be otherwise, and then travel with my husband. We love to travel, so, and set it aside for retirement as well, and see if there are other people in the family and friends that we can help along the way. So,
what's your favorite song right now, and why?
It changes so often. I would say my favorite song right now is a song called Made, and it's about soulmates. I don't know if you've heard it. It's in the country genre, more on the sappy song side, but something that speaks to me. And the song itself is about soulmates and that they're not found, but made. And I think that goes along with everything in life, that it's not happenstance, that it's what you put into it and the effort into it, and what you're driven and what you're passionate about.
If you had to write a book tomorrow, what would you write about?
I would write about using automation for good. That I feel like there's so much automation, so much tracking, so much, people watching what we're doing, and so many social media platforms. And, there are a lot of really good ways that you can use the technology, and there's a lot of really creepy ways that you can use the technology. And I feel like we ride that creepy line all the time. And I remember years ago making a conscious effort with, the teams that I was working with to stay on the good side of the creepy line and being aware of that. And now I feel like we blow past it so quickly. But I think there's a lot of ways that we can use automation to learn more about people and what they want, what they need, what would best meet their needs, and be able to provide solutions for people. And I think I would go that route and help others understand how they could utilize it in their own way. Yeah, no, I'm very passionate about utilizing automation and being able to, like I mentioned earlier, basically multiply the touch points that you have. I mean, we as individuals can only touch so many lives, can only reach out to so many people. So I feel like when you incorporate automation, it helps you clone yourself, to put it simply, helps you be in multiple places at once and create that uniform experience. So I think it's really cool to incorporate it across, multiple industries, multiple companies, and it's something that is a lot of fun to use.
And also something that is more on a personalized side of things, right? The automation, because normally it is kind of like a template that you can, as a receiver, you can already feel that it is automated and not something alive on the other side that is talking to you, right? So the challenge for automation is always to make it so personalized that the person really feels talked to by a real person, right?
Definitely, yeah, because that's probably the quickest thing, other than the creepy factor, is when people feel like they're speaking to a machine. I mean, how quickly when we call, the pharmacy, for example, and you get that automated recording and you're hitting the prompts and it's driving you crazy, your stress level goes through the roof, when in reality it's supposed to be there to help you, but it doesn't. You'd much rather just talk to someone, and you find yourself yelling at the phone, speaking to a machine. Or maybe I'm the only one that has done that more than once.
No. I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah. Like, speak to representative. Just give me 8%. But yeah, you can ultimately, you want to make it feel personal in a genuine way, and so people find it useful and not just creepy or annoying.
What do you think the world will look like in 50 years?
Oh, that's where automation makes me nervous, to think about the artificial intelligence and the incremental changes that we're making year after year and how much it closely resembles reality. Mm-hmm. I feel like it'll be a very blurred line of what's reality and what's artificial. And with this new generation, my children being the one in my mind, they don't really care necessarily what is reality and what is not, where our generation, it was more important to us. So I feel like, as much as I enjoy automation, it will be interesting to see how it plays out over the next 10, 20, 50 years ahead of us. So I think we'll do very little for ourselves without having machines involved. I heard someone on the radio just yesterday, and they were talking about this, and basically the person said, well, why would I do anything if a machine could do it for me? So I think that tends to be a lot of the thought process. So it will definitely be interesting. That's where we need to use it for good.
If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. Can I say buffet so I have choices?
I see.
If not, then I would say go with filet mignon. I like a good steak.
Oh, so not something Italian or traditionally Italian?
No, I love Italian food too. I usually try to avoid gluten. So I don't think my stomach would appreciate if I would go with manicotti or some sort of good Italian meal. So that's why I figured we'll go the steak route. I always enjoy that.
Yeah, especially if it's for life, right?
Right, exactly. Although pretty much anything I'd get sick of very quickly.
Yeah, yeah, there needs to be some variety, right?
hmm Definitely.
What is the most important lesson you've learned over your career? And I know you have been in multiple careers. Maybe for the listeners who don't know you, you could explain in what kind of careers you've been and what kind of lessons you've learned there.
Sure. The most important lesson I would say over my career is that you can learn and accomplish anything that you put your mind to. As long as you want to, you have a passion, desire after it. I actually started my career out of high school. I went to school to be a registered nurse, and I worked as a registered nurse in high-risk labor and delivery, and I did that for 11 years. But a few years into that, I was very creative and techie and just had a desire to do more creative things. I had someone reach out to me and ask if I could help with their website. So I said, sure, I'll figure it out. So I started researching and helped, this individual with their website. It turned out great. They were thrilled. And this was back in the world of coding tables. Back in 2004, I started doing it. And I quickly, picked it up, started my own business, actually doing creative web design, marketing, and I ended up working my business. I worked as a registered nurse on the weekends, and I ran my business during the week. So I did a combination of that for about, 8 years or so. And then I ended up transitioning out of the nursing world. I needed something a little more consistent and wanted a change. And so I switched over to full-time IT and have been working in the IT marketing world ever since for major organizations. I started working for eBay at that time, doing front-end development. I made my way into management, worked for Project Management Institute as a manager there. And then worked in the pharmaceutical world where I have been more recently helping, billion-dollar organizations around the world with their marketing. And then have continued having my own business this entire time as well. And as I've been on this journey, there's so much that I've learned. I also did photography I did that professionally and again, taught myself. I ended up as I was learning photography, trying to figure out, how to pick up this skill. Quite frankly, I had no idea what I was doing. And that actually came out of me wanting to take pictures of my kids and not take crappy pictures of my kids. So I started to pick that up. And for that, I actually researched colleges that had degrees in photography and pulled out their curriculum, pulled out the books that they had for that curriculum, went out, bought the books and studied and basically taught myself how a degree in photography through proxy, through, the resources that the colleges have. So back to my most important lesson, like I said, is you can learn anything that you want. It has served me very well through my career in just digging deep, YouTube tutorials, teaching myself to code, teaching myself photography. I would say 90% will say of what I have learned in my career are things that I have taught myself. And I've obviously learned from very, very smart people around me as well. I make a point to surround myself with people that are smarter than I am, and I can pick up on their skills. So I'm constantly learning, constantly improving, and I enjoy learning new stuff every single day.
That is what I love so much about you, that you are so independent minded and that you are so driven when it comes to certain skills or certain areas that you want to acquire knowledge from or the skill from. This is so refreshing and so amazing to watch. As we have been working for quite a while now, after you first have been a customer of mine for a little time, right? And this has so quickly transitioned into something so beautiful that I feel is a really, really fruitful partnership that we are looking at right now. And I really, really enjoy that, this type of mindset that you have, and this kind of drive and passion for things that are not necessarily connected together, right? From a very creative, or first of all, the nursing area, then a very techie side, and then a very creative path. Like this is so juicy. This is so enjoyable to be around you and to see you how you do these things. It's really, really exciting and enjoyable for me.
Thank you. That means the world. I really, really appreciate that.
What is a common myth about your job or field of expertise?
That you have to have a college degree. I think it's pushed, at least in the US in particular. I'm sure it is in the EU as well. But I have a degree in nursing, and I have no degrees in anything else that I do today. I have certifications, and for my kids, my son is going into IT. I highly, highly encourage him to go the certification route. He actually went to a technical school in high school, came out and got a certification, and he's, well on his way in IT. But certs are easy to get, meaning you can do it independently. You don't have to go to college and get, years and years of classes that you won't necessarily use and debt that you really don't need. Yeah. There's so much that you can do without having to go to college. Not that I don't think you should. I mean, like I said, I do have a degree, and for specialty areas like nursing, you have to, right? Yeah. Or the medical field, there's lots of different areas you have to go to college. But for my kids, we have 3 kids. One's in the military, one went to technical school, and one will probably go to college, although she's still figuring it out. So, it depends on what you want to do, but you don't have to be successful.
What is the biggest challenge you're facing in your business right now, and how are you tackling it?
So the biggest challenge right now is going through a full rebranding, which has been with the expertise of you, and has been a fabulous experience to really pull out the heart and soul of what Seven Figure Builder is and be able to communicate it in a way that really resonates with the target audience. So we've gone through a full rebranding that we're just finishing up, and I am so incredibly excited to relaunch the platform with its new face and feel, and it is completely overhauled. But now the real power in the platform can shine, and I'm incredibly excited to get the word out. But I will say it has felt like a challenge in that I feel like my hands are tied, and there's so much that I'm just bursting at the seams that I want to tell everybody and share with everybody, and so much coming out that is almost ready to be out. So we have lots of fun and exciting things coming. But that's I've partnered with one of the best branding consultants out there, Ella, and you have been fantastic to help really tease out and pull out what is the heart and soul and the true face of Seven Figure Builder. So super excited for what's ahead.
I'm really, really happy to hear that and to see that everything that I try to pull out, right, to make it the new face of Seven Figure Builder is really something that you feel is you, 100%. This is like the biggest gift that I can be given from any customer to hear that and to know that. So it's always a big honor to nail it. Really, so that customers are really happy and raving about the results. This is the ultimate goal and ultimate achievement for me.
Absolutely, you definitely did nail it.
Why are you passionate about your job?
Oh my goodness. I love helping people reach their full potential, similar to you. when you meet with a client or you're building something and you're talking with someone and understanding their deepest need, and you can start to envision what it is that will ultimately help them, and then be able to communicate that to somebody and have them just, grasp onto that and realize that will indeed help them reach their goals. So I'm very much about providing value and helping people get results. I'm extremely results driven and tend to be very tactical that way. Yes, you do. So it's just very cool to connect with people and be able to identify the need, and then instantly see and identify the solution and be able to connect them together and then bring that to fruition to be able to deliver that for your clients, no matter what you're working on with them. So it's very fulfilling for me. And it also, lets me use my creativity. I once had a boss ask me, what do I need to be successful? And I said, I need flexibility. And I saw his face change of I need flexibility to be with my kids. And I said, I need flexibility to use my creativity to solve problems, to come up with solutions. And he's like, oh, okay, sure. Okay, that's what I need, But yeah, I've always been about working extremely hard and providing that value and building that trust and being a trusted partner with whoever I'm working with. And it gives me ultimate flexibility, ultimate freedom, ultimate financial freedom to be able to provide for my family. So there's many, many layers of it that makes me passionate about my job.
Now tell me about the 5-day social media breakthrough that we two have been working for a while now, and why you personally started this project.
Yeah, so the 5-day social media breakthrough is a live 5-day workshop that Ella and I will be collaborating on, and helping people really dig down into what is their content strategy. I've spent so much time marketing and online and in Facebook groups and trying to really feel out the niche of, how to reach out to the right people at the right time with the right message. And I've come across so much noise, the noise is just deafening. And I'm so, focused on providing value. And I just see people floundering and struggling in accomplishing that. They want to help people, but they don't know how. So we had come up with this concept of the social media breakthrough to help people really get to the root of their content strategy. Who are they speaking to? How do they ultimately reach out to people? How can it be data driven so that you're not guessing at things and just throwing things at the wall and see what sticks and wasting your energy? So being able to do research and understand, in a very quick and easy way, what will work and have it be informed. So through the workshop, it's extremely interactive, extremely hands-on. It's live, so you'll be, working with us together, and surrounded with people virtually, of course, that are in the same boat and trying to accomplish the same things you are. So you can feed off of that energy and excitement and really get a very clear content path and strategy and plan, and know exactly what topics you need to write about, who your ideal audience is, what do they care about, so you can speak to their deep needs and wants and desires, and then clearly communicate how you can meet those needs for them and deliver the value that they are looking for. So it's going to be an awesome, incredible 5 days. I am very, very excited about this. And it is unlike any other course, class, workshop, masterclass, I don't care what you call it. This is unlike anything else out there. And I can say that with full 100% confidence. I know people tout that off a lot, but this is truly, truly unique, and something that'll be truly incredible. So it'll be exciting. It's coming up in very soon, in a few weeks yet. And we'll be super excited for all of you to come join us at the 5-day social media breakthrough.
and I can definitely say that it will be something very, very special. I have personally not seen anything like Julie have built with this workshop, and I have been part of many courses, even from big names and master classes. And what makes it so unique, maybe you want to dive a little bit into it. What makes it so unique that you will not find anywhere else with the very particular skills that only Julie can provide at this point, which makes the whole process very intuitive and very fast and very true to who you are as a customer client that wants to serve someone as a coach.
Definitely. Yeah. And I've taken many courses throughout the years. And ultimately, when I get to the end of the course, I've always felt like there was something missing. Like I had my notes. I tend to write everything down. So thankfully, I would have my notes at the end of the course. But, as you're going through a particular course, no matter what the topic, there are different ideas that you have, different, realizations, revelations. And when you get to the end of the course, oftentimes they're gone. As the course ends, they're just right out the window. And you're lucky if you remember a few key elements the next day, week, 6 months, year later. But ultimately, the value that you got out of that course is gone. So with the 5-day social media breakthrough, we changed that completely, where it's bite-sized marketing, bite-sized pieces throughout the entire course, the 5 days. And each element of truth that you come up with every single day is baked into a digital workbook for you. So at the end of the course, you have all of those nuggets of truth right in front of you that you have step by step for lifetime, the content strategy that you have come up with through the different lessons that we have, the live lessons. There's different questionnaires, there's different quizzes, there's revelations that you'll get about yourself and your learning style and your learning type and your strengths, and then how you can turn that into content, because we're not all good at everything. And I'll be the first to admit it, I am most certainly not, but we all are good at something. And the more we can key in on what our strengths are and what we are actually good at and maximize that to its full potential, man, we're a powerhouse. You're unstoppable. So through this 5-day social media breakthrough, we'll be going through those different elements so you can understand what is your hidden strength that you may not be fully realizing the potential of, and how can you best use that to reach your target audience. And Ella will be walking you through who is your ideal client. I know that's a pain point that I've heard countless people talk about, where you hear it all the time, right? Talk to your ideal client. But when you get down to the nitty gritty, who is that and where are they and what do they care about? And these are big, lofty questions that when you actually go to answer them and you get down to the details, 99% of people out there truly have no idea. So we'll be walking that through so you have a very clear picture in your head of who that person is, and you have, everything about them in that vision that you have of them, so that every piece that you create, every piece of content, every post, everything that you create going forward, you're speaking to that person. You have that person in mind. So it completely changes how you do your content, from knowing who they are, knowing what they care about, knowing the channels that you should speak to them on, because you know where they're hanging out and what they're doing. And it just brings it all together. And at the end of the 5-day social media breakthrough, you'll have a digital workbook with all of this mapped out, so that when you get to the end of this course, you have everything that you need. Instead of it going out the window, you have it in front of you for the rest of your life, and you can tweak it, change it. It's a constantly living, breathing being that you can update as your business evolves over time. And it'll be a tool that is invaluable.
Yes, and then in combination with branding elements that are basic and most crucial, especially in the beginning, you will be combining something that will work like a powerhouse, right? Like a team. And most of the time people are kind of debating whether they should use branding or marketing to get to their goals. But I am like Gary Vee at this point. I say it's not or, it's and, right? If you use both together, you will become unstoppable. So if people are interested in joining the 5-day social media breakthrough workshop, where can they reach out to join it? It will come up in November, in the beginning of November, and I will announce, of course, the dates when it will be live and when people can register. But if someone wants to register right now, where can they do that?
Absolutely. So we have a very special link for you for the listeners of this podcast, and you can go to sevenfigurebuilder.com/podcast. And that'll take you exactly where you need to register. We only have a limited amount of seats available in this workshop due to the very interactive nature. As we mentioned, it'll be fully immersive, but we only have a very limited number of seats. So you want to make sure to reserve yours early so that you can make sure that you book your spot and that it doesn't fill up fast. So we'll have a whole VIP experience in addition that you can check out. And it will be, like I said, something that you've never experienced before. And I cannot explain how excited I am about this. So go to sevenfigurebuilder.com/podcast and you can sign up today and get your seat for the 5-day social media breakthrough workshop.
I will, of course, leave all the links necessary in the description to this podcast so you don't miss out on it. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much, Juli, for this amazing hour that we spent together. I learned so much more about you, which is so beautiful and exciting. And I cannot wait to start with this 5-day social media breakthrough workshop with you together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Ella. I really appreciate it.